So I've been judiciously researching all about the judicial system of Kentucky. It's the one branch that actually is elusive, and I don't know. I just want to learn a little bit more about it, and so I'm going to give a whole bunch of talks about the judicial system. Some of the initial comments I want to make is Kentucky is like one of the top states in the nation for corruption. So we're one of the most corrupt fucking states. So when it actually comes to not having money to pay for education and health care and the other necessities of Kentucky people, roads, bridges, fire departments, is corruption. Corruption takes up so much money. When people are using all the money and they're just fucking putting it in their own pockets and they're not giving back to other people. The president of Uruguay, he actually gave up the presidential palace for some homeless people. Have you ever heard of anybody like in America ever like giving up their home for somebody else, let alone a strange person, a stranger? So that's the president of Uruguay. They do things a little bit differently in South America. So this is Kentucky, right? So this is a civilization as established by Daniel Boone, 200 more than around 200 years ago. Okay, so this is Linda Bramlage. This is a judge in Gallatin and Boone County. Now I'm gonna show you some maps real fast because this will be a good resource page. Okay, so here are the districts throughout Kentucky, and I'm gonna show these maps so that way you can pull it up real fast, and if you just need to take a quick little snip of it, then you would have it to keep and to not have to look it up yourself. Okay, so the first one is judicial district or circuits, which is I think is going to be the same as districts because it was the same number. So here you see Gallatin County. This is the place where I was born and raised, actually right here in Gent, right? Or Gent's like right here on the line, but it was in just a farm out in the middle of nowhere, which is now a sludge pond for KU. So it's no more. So there's Gallatin County. It's where I was born and raised. Boone County is where I got some family. I lived in Jefferson County. I've lived in Mason County and Maysville. Lived in Lexington and Fayette County. I've only visited Appalachia. I've never gone to Western Kentucky. I've never gone to any of these counties. I think I've driven south, right, south to Tennessee. I think I went to Louisville, but I don't remember any of it. So I've never actually gone to western side of Kentucky. No offense, just Eastern Kentucky is like all of it's red, so they're all poor. It's just I've been to Pike County, Letcher County, Harlan, Bell, Knox. That was a fun trip to Knox County. I think Corinth, Whitley, McCreary, and then I guess I've had to have gone through Wayne and Clinton and Pulaski, some of these other ones, right, to get out and go through it. Cumberland, named after the butcher of the Scots. Fucking he killed a lot of Scots people, so a bunch of fucking William Wallaces, right? That's who the fucking Duke of Cumberland is. Also been to Wolfe County, Menifee County. I'd like to be Boyd County is where Ashley Judd is from. Martin County, Inez, this is where LBJ went to for his war on poverty. Okay, so anyways, we're not talking random stuff, just about admiring our state, right? I do have an irrational love for my home state. Love Kentucky. Born, raised, going to die here. So, judicial circuits. Number 54 is Boone and Gallatin County. They're together. Okay, so the judges for the district and circuit courts are going to be the same for district number 54. Now, I am living in Meade County, and so Meade County is actually 46. And so we're looking at two different districts, okay? We're going to actually look up the people who's running an office and see if they have any competitors. But let's see. Okay, so judicial circuits. I am in Meade County, so that's judicial circuit number 46. And then 54 is where I came from. So those, we're doing a compare and contrast. So the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals District, the pink, where I came from, Gallatin County, it is the 6th district, right, for the Court of Appeals. And actually, I'm going to write this down. 6th district for the Court of Appeals, and then Meade County is the 2nd district, right, because it's a darker blue. So I'm in the 2nd District for the Court of Appeals, and that's going to be different. The Court of Appeals is the appellate court, the one that's right below the Supreme Court, just like in America, right? So there's the appeals court and the Supreme Court. So you got the regular circuit and district courts, which is the lower level courts, and then it goes to the appeals court, then to the Supreme Court, and that's the way she rolls. Okay, so this only kind of matters for the well, it matters totally for a lot of things, but it matters. There's an election actually that's coming up. Here's the list of Court of Justice family court sites. So I was actually reading about family court, and family court is not in all of Kentucky. You look at this map and you can see all the ones that have slash marks are the ones that do not have family court. So Meade County doesn't have family court. Carroll, Owen, Grant, Bath, Menifee, Estill, Lee, Owsley, Letcher, Harlan, none of these have family courts. And then you see the names, they got specific names. So it almost looks like family court is just expanding its domain and its jurisdiction, just assigning and appointing people. It really goes to the, I guess, the main guy, which I'll look at the Supreme Court, later. But the looking at all of Kentucky, none of them have family courts. So that's wild, actually. Why don't they all have family courts? In Meade County, we don't have family courts, but you got Linda Bramlage in Boone County, right? You see Linda Bramlage, which is in family court for Boone and Gallatin, since they're the same district. So where I came from has a family court, but where I'm at now does not. So why do we have, what's up with the discrepancy? I think that's an important thing to try to figure out. Let's see. Let's just get the whole map in here so if people want to see from the southern end here. I mean, they said 71 counties, and there's 120 counties in Kentucky. So the majority of counties has a family court, and the idea of family court is one judge, one family, and they'll just hash it out in private, so it's not being aired out in front of everybody, and it's supposed to be more efficient, and it's revolutionary, and everybody loves it or something. So, but not everybody apparently loves it, because you got 9 counties that don't want to, get on board with it, or hasn't established their own thing. And so what does Meade County has? Meade County has like other positions, which I'm not for sure. There's an approved mediator, and then there's a master commissioner. So there's an approved mediator and a master commissioner. So instead of having a family court, I guess the mediator is the family court person. So they have like domestic violence hearings and shit like that. There was a big ass case where this kid had wound up getting shot by his mother's abuser, and they blamed child services. But I wonder if the family court, the idea of it sounds smart. It sounds smart. So it seems like if it was effectively used, it would be a good idea. Now, I don't believe it's effectively used, but we'll get to that in a second. So here's another one. This says judicial districts, and then this one's the other one that I had was judicial, something else. Judicial districts, and it was judicial circuit districts. Okay, so but they're the exact same thing. This is still 46 for Meade County, and also Breckinridge and Grayson, so it's all one block. I don't know, maybe Meade County, Breckinridge, and Grayson has a historical connection. I don't know. Seems like Hardin County would probably be okay. Whatever. I'm not gonna try to gerrymander. I'm not going to question their gerrymandering. So 46 is ours, and then 54 is ours being mine where I'm at now, where I'm situated at today. So I'm a Meade Countyan, right? Woo! Meade County. Go Bulldogs, or Panthers, or Wildcats. Probably Wildcats, I bet you. Go Meade County Wildcats. Okay, so Gallatin County is where I came from, okay? That's where I grew up, was born and raised. I was valedictorian, actually, of high school. So, I'm the best and brightest of what Gallatin County has to offer. And it's the same district. So 54 is the 54th district is where I came from. 46 is where I'm at now. So we got that. Linda Bramlage is the family, family court judge for Boone County, and Meade County has nobody. Right, so we've established this. I saw this price sheet. This price sheet tickles me. Okay, so you got John D. Minton Jr. This is the man, okay? So John D. Minton Jr., he's the Supreme Court Justice. He's the one who runs the court system. And the way that, American democracy works, we got 3 branches, the legislator passes the laws, and the executive enforces the laws that's on the books and the ones that's passed, and then the judicial system interprets all those laws that's being executed and passed. And the police are kind of in between the all three branches. So once the police make an arrest, it'll go before some judge. The judge organizes the court. They'll look at the case and determine, a verdict, or to go through the process, right? So John D. Minton Jr. is the Chief Justice of Kentucky. So he's the main guy on the Supreme Court. And then we have his pay is $140,000, 502. So 140, 502. So whatever, 140,000, right? So he's making 140,000. He's the main dude. That seems like it might be somewhat justified. He's the main fucking guy. Got to run all the judges, all the legal system, and it all falls on this guy. So that's a lot of pressure for Mr. John D. Minton Jr. Your Honor. No, I'm just kidding. So if he's corrupt, fuck him too. But if he's not, then that's good. I don't know anything about him, so I'm not going to comment one way or the other. I do want to point out the amount of money that these fucking judges are making. So he's the Supreme Court justice, right? The president's going to make, $400,000. The governor's going to make, $100,000 and shit. I don't know if the fucking city councilman or the dog catcher or the, the soil and water conservation district supervisors, I'm not sure if they need to be making six fucking figures. And another thing about the judges, the only people that can be a judge in Gallatin County or in Kentucky is other lawyers. So really, if you're in the legal system, you become a lawyer, you can make money with a private practice, you can become a fucking judge, right? And, start you're wrong and you're right. No, you're right, you're wrong. You go to jail, but you don't. I'm a judge. I know how to judge others. I am so smart. But I thought you said Christianity says you're not supposed to judge others. Well, I'm kind of a half and half, right? Sort of a Christian, but I'm a real judgy type of Christian. So one of those. Supreme Court. Chief Justice makes $140,000. Justices make $135,000. The Court of Appeals, the Chief Judge makes $133,000. The judge makes $130,000. Family Circuit Court. So here you got Linda Bramlage. She makes $124,000 per year. 125, right? Around that $620 up. So she makes $125,000 every year. Six fucking figures. Is she giving back like the president of Uruguay? Does she give back any of that wealth, or does she just go and buy private land and yachts and sea-doos and eating caviar and buying her own private airlines? So, that's 124,000, six fucking figures, and I don't even know what the tenure of, a judge is in there. Once they get elected, are they in there for 6 years? I mean, these elections happened, I guess, 4 years ago. I remember 4 years ago these elections were happening. So the family court judge, I mean, I don't even understand actually how some of this stuff works. How come nobody else is running up against her? There's no other lawyers. Nobody has the balls to run up against. And I guess the filing date's too late. You could do as a write-in candidate. But there's nobody running against Linda Bramlage, so she's running unopposed. She's going to become, the next family court. She's going to be in there again. Now, I have a problem with her. I don't like her. I think she's a corrupt piece of shit. I think she is, in favor of nepotism. I think she is not a judge. She doesn't give a fuck about the truth or what the actual situation is. She doesn't give a shit. When it came to, me and my old man got into it, and I go to jail, right? Because he went ahead, somehow he convinced his story was more convincing than mine. And when I got out, I was living out in the streets, and so she went ahead. I wasn't able to make my one hearing, but I showed up the next day. They wanted to send me to jail. I posted bail. But it wasn't like I intentionally missed it. I wasn't there. And when I wasn't there, she went ahead and put, the criminal charges on me, and then the DVO and the EPO and everything else was on me. And it just felt incredibly unfair, okay? So I wasn't there, but you went ahead and convicted me and said I was guilty. Now, fast forward 3-4 years later, now he's going to re-up it, right? So I wasn't in Gallatin County for the last 4 years, but he's going to go ahead and put a domestic violence order. This is the abuser putting it on the victim. This is what's happening. And so he's going to put the domestic violence order on me again. And when I go up to court and he's not there, she didn't convict him. She didn't listen to me and hear me out, So there's definitely hypocrisy. I don't know if it's just because he's the one who filed for the petition. I don't know if it's because he's, the fucking, sperm donor, dad, whatever. If it's she just sides with the man, if she just sides with the oppressor, with the person who files. Maybe they know each other personally. I don't fucking know. She recused herself, and in a way, I forgive her because in the beginning, she's pretty much fucked up my life. I mean, I don't give a fuck to be around him, but the reputation, the stigma that'd be attached to me for not being allowed, not just around him, it was also around my younger siblings who told child services that I had they were not in fear of me. So on my record, I cannot be around two younger children, my siblings, and my father. So there's three people that I'm not allowed to be around. So when people look at that, they say, "Well, what's that about?" And then I have to kind of explain them the whole thing. But it was just between me and him. He's the one that's throwing the kids in there because that's what a weak man does. A weak man hides behind his children, and so that's exactly what he's doing. In fact, he's brainwashed them, got into their heads. They go to court and they're all pissed off and ready to. Looks like they're ready to fight. It's like it's not that serious. Chill out, you all. So okay, fine, I get y'all. Y'all don't like me. Good. That's wonderful. So she eventually knocks it down and it goes to Michael Collins. Okay, so Michael Collins is this man. So again, just like Linda Bramlage, just like I think it might be a typical fucking thing. A cop says this guy's guilty, they go up to the judge, and then it's like, "Oh, you're guilty. So what are you gonna do? What you gonna plead?" There's a judge in let's see, Henry County. She had said that the only options that you could do for the legal system was to say guilty or not guilty. That's total bullshit. In Kentucky, you can plead an Alford plea, which is no contest. I plead no contest, Your Honor. No contest. I'm not going to call myself guilty, but there's enough evidence that could convict me. So it's an Alford plea, and nobody ever should plead guilty for any fucking reason. Ever, ever, ever. And you should all 95% of the time push for a jury trial. Any matters that's over $20 according to the 7th Amendment is to be resolved by a jury of your peers. And if they really want to, fuck you over some dumb petty shit, well, let's fucking do a jury trial. And even if it's some big shit that you're fucking innocent of, definitely fuck a jury trial. Jury trial, jury trial, jury trial. The Constitution, I think both Kentucky and United States protects the right to a trial by jury. No matter if you're in the family court, circuit court, or the district court, okay? So Michael Collins picks up the case, and I feel he takes some of the blame because he didn't give a fuck. He didn't even know how to fill out a fucking DVO form. Didn't even try to fucking resolve it. Didn't even give a shit who was right, who was wrong. Didn't even care because it didn't fucking matter. The truth and justice doesn't matter to these judges. These judges don't give a shit about truth and justice. They give a fuck about their salary figure. They give a fuck about their $130,000. So they got elected. They have friends who helped them get elected. Those are the people that they give a shit about. Their family, their staff. That's it. That's all they give a fuck about. So they're up and coming. They want to make a name for themselves. So they think the more prosecutions, the more people they can fuck over, it's better for their career. Now, what's interesting about all these fucking judges in Boone County specifically is that you got a murdering fucking psycho sheriff up there killing daughters, right? There's a 19-year-old girl driving away from a party, and a cop jumps on the car, shoots her a whole bunch of fucking times, and then he's still on the force. These judges haven't done jack shit about it. Well, that's not fair. That's not right. How the fuck is that right? Like, it's not even, I'm sorry for, wow. They fucking murdered somebody. And if you're a real fucking man, if that's my fucking daughter, I'm gonna go ahead and protect my fucking kid. I'm gonna fucking protect my kid. That's what the police are supposed to do. Protect life, liberty, and limb. And there was no fucking protection whatsoever. It was an attack. And that's not what we need. We need fucking judges who's going to hold the police accountable and actually look at people's cases and try to figure them out instead of just fucking, going with the person that has the lawyer, or just going with, the person who looks more confident, or the person you seem to think that you identify most with. Those are all horrible, shitty fucking basis our court system is adversarial, unfortunately, and it's not inquisitive. So they don't actually try to look for the kernel of truth. They don't actually try to get to the fucking nugget. And that's the problem. I think there's a judge in Trimble County, and there's a seatbelt case, and he actually, listened to what I had to say, listened to what the police officer had to say, and made a determination. So he actually, for once in my life, I had a fucking Kentucky judge that actually looked at the fucking case, looked at the situation, and determined from there. I have a case with the LMPD, and that judge, even though Delahunty, even though I think he wanted me to be, put in jail so I could be raped a whole bunch of fucking times, even though I didn't do a fucking thing except for walk down the street, he ran a fair trial. So even if he's against me, I think that's the point of the judge, is to have a fair hearing. Not to convict every motherfucker that goes through the fucking door. Don't harass them. I mean, I remember in Gallatin County, I walked through those doors, and you got the fucking, people at the security desk harassing everybody, saying they're fucking guilty and shit, and patting them down and just like looking them up and down and shit. Little fucking short, bald fucking, and then there's a female in there that's just like a dickhead, and they're hypocrites, right? They carry, whatever, they won't allow you, they have video cameras everywhere, right? All over the fucking place, they got fucking video cameras, but if you have a video camera, they're like, whoa, 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 where are you going with that video camera there? Only we can have the video cameras, because we're the government, and we own this building, not the people. We, the government, do. So Michael Collins took the case because Linda Bramlage recused herself. She didn't know the fucking situation, and she did feel like she was connected to the thing. Also, it was mentioned by the fucking, psycho abuser that I grew up with, that I was talking about shit online, and so she started thinking about her election and her career and her six-figure salary, and so she went ahead and recused herself. So good for her. But then Michael Collins fucking comes up, and this piece of shit doesn't give a fuck at all about the fucking case. It reminded me of this Tupac YouTube video where he gets up and he's like, Judge, you went ahead and convicted me, and you said that I was guilty of whatever, and I didn't get convicted of anything. It was family court, and it was a DVO was extended with the addendum that there was no domestic violence. So he admitted that there's no domestic violence, and this piece of shit issued a DVO, domestic violence order, even though he admitted that there was no domestic violence. So why would you issue a domestic violence order when there's been no domestic violence? It makes no fucking sense. But that's what this piece of shit did. He said he didn't even know how to fucking fill out the forms, went ahead and filled the shit out, and now I got an extension. Now I'm hoping, next fucking time, because that's what my fucking father, that's how we fucking, interact with each other. He's gonna sue me again, gonna fucking re-up on this shit, done brag to Lucy. He's gonna fucking do it for the rest of my life, right? He's wanting to fuck with me ever since I'm a kid, wants to still fuck with me as an adult, gonna continue to fuck with me, never gonna stop. But Judge Michael Collins didn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit at all. I mean, I don't know if he's beating his kids. I don't know if his daddy beat the fuck out of him. And, if he's all for child abuse, then that's fucking bullshit. Then maybe I need to be his daddy, if that's what he's in favor of. If you're in favor of children getting beat up for no fucking apparent reason, and you don't know what the fuck, that piece of shit would throw Kool-Aid in my face. What if I throw fucking Kool-Aid in your face? Try to murder me with the golf club. What if I swung three swings of a fucking iron or a one wood at your fucking head? If I swung a one wood at your fucking head there, Judge Michael Collins, you would call me a criminal. You would say I'd try to kill you. You would say, I'd probably be in jail for the rest of my life if I swung a golf club at your head for 3 times. But Kevin Deaton can swing a golf club at my fucking head, and nobody bats an eye. Nobody gives a shit. That's not right. That's not fair. The motherfucker's fucked with me my whole life, and then he tried to fucking murder me. And then he put a fucking restraining order on me, and he put me in jail, and he's done this and done that and done this and carry on. I'm trying to be a teacher here. So I gotta fuck, why are you not allowed to be around children? Or not all children, but these 2 children. Why are you not allowed to be around your little brother and sister? How come you're not allowed to be around your little brother and your little sister? Because my fucking old man's an asshole. I have to fucking explain that shit. I have to fucking say something. You know what I mean? And that's the point. He put a fucking permanent mark on my fucking hand. He wanted a permanent mark on my fucking record. These sick, oppressive fucking types are, they're white supremacists, child beating. This is the culture of Kentucky. So, whenever there's a fucking cop that just murders a kid, a 19-year-old, nobody gives a fuck. I haven't heard anything about this police officer, so I hope I'm wrong about the police officer thing, because they flat out murdered a 17-year-old girl, and that nobody gives a shit, So these are 2 fucking Boone County judges, and they can actually say something and they can do something about their situations if they cared about the people. So let's go back to let's go look at the election candidate filings. So we see here that Linda Ray Bramlage is running for Circuit Judge Family Court in the 54th District in the 2nd Division. So I don't know how many divisions there are in the 54th District. Is there 1, 2, 3? I think I've only seen 2 most of the time. So who's the 1st District, right? There's a good question. Who's in the 1st District? You got the 54-2, but who's 54-1? So how do they run, in intermittent years? Is it in 2 years they'll run? So 54-2. So she's running again, and what, for 4 years or so, probably, Linda Ray Bramlage is running for Circuit Judge Family Court. There have been no other filings for the 54th District. She is running unopposed. It's a nonpartisan thing. They really, when these judges run for office, you either have to know them or you don't, because they can't say that they would, be in favor of abortion or, would overturn this Supreme Court case or that. They would just have to keep their mouths shut. Because they have to be nonpartisan, they have to be fair, and they can't be biased towards anybody. Unlike the one judge, actually, Sarah McLaughlin in Louisville. So you got Linda Ray Bramlage, right? Who's running for Circuit Judge Family Court. Family Court is underneath the Circuit Judge, which means the Circuit Judge is actually bigger than the District Court. You got District Court, you got Circuit Court. They're both on. Okay. That's actually a good spot to go to. Okay, so let's actually do an overview of the whole court system. So you have the courts of Kentucky. Okay. Now the courts of Kentucky, they have another part is that when you murder in cold blood, an eye for an eye is what Old Testament. Marco Chapman killed children in Gallatin County, and now you have a police officer who's killing a 19-year-old. Who is a daughter to somebody. I don't know how mature she is, so I don't know if you want to call her a kid or not. She's legally an adult, and at least she can fight and die for the country. She's just not allowed to drink. So here's the courts of Kentucky. The Kentucky Court of Justice. This actually comes from a Kentucky Constitution passed by the state's voters. So actually, our Constitution, Kentucky's Constitution, is really gutted and butchered, and it's really removed from the original document. And one of the main reasons, so like all the passages about the judicial system in the Kentucky's Constitution doesn't matter, because in 1975 we passed an amendment to overhaul the entire judicial system. And an amendment was just a ballot initiative they put on the ballot, and then the people voted that we needed judicial reform. And so in 1975, Kentucky underwent judicial reform. And the way that they did it was, the amendment totally changed the language of the Constitution and created its own language and its own thing. So everything about Kentucky's judicial system comes from this 1975 amendment. And I think getting the original document and reading it verbatim, word for word, is important. So anyways, so judicial power in Kentucky is vested exclusively in one court of justice, divided into the following. So they went ahead and consolidated all the fucking judicial system into what we're looking at now. Kentucky Supreme Court is supreme, the main court, right? That's the Supreme Court, same thing as America. Kentucky Court of Appeals, it's the second court, that's just like America too. And then right underneath that, you got Kentucky Circuit Courts. The circuit courts, they handle $4,000 or $5,000 matters, or they affect the felonies, or the ones that put people behind bars for a long ass time. They deal with the big issues. The district courts, they deal with the small claims, misdemeanors, little shit. So the circuit courts are the big players, and then the district courts are underneath the circuit. So you got four branches, and then family court is like a fucking wild card. Is it above district? Is it below district? It's probably the same as district. They probably run counter current, but it's a part of circuit court. So they're saying they have the jurisdiction of circuit court. So circuit court, has a jurisdiction of some area. Then you can also have a family court underneath that circuit court if they establish it. And I'm not for sure how to establish a family court, for the 59 counties in Kentucky that don't have it. So you got a Kentucky Supreme Court, just to repeat this because that's how you memorize it, right? Supreme Court, Kentucky Court of Appeals, Kentucky circuit courts, and they say that right here, 57 circuits, right? So there's 57 courts, 57 judges that can establish some type of hearing and fuck up your life if they want to. And then Kentucky District Court, there's 60 judicial districts there. And so that's Kentucky's the courts. That's our state system, and that's really all I want to get into today. We have a federal system, so the federal government has some powers, and then the state has some powers, and those powers actually better defined, I think, than other things that are defined. But you know, I think there's some actually gray area there too. Think Obamacare, right? So who's got jurisdiction over Obamacare? The federal courts in Kentucky, you got the United States District Court for Eastern Kentucky, and you got the United States District Court for Western District of Kentucky. So they just split it, right? You got 2 district courts for the United States. Then you have all these, you know, these four branches for the state. And then state comes from the state constitution, the state law, KRS, right? And unfortunately, like I said, with the corruption, I think people are making this shit up as they go along, and nobody's actually checking them. They don't have media. They don't have an active citizenry. We're not educating our students in civics. So people don't know, you know, I would say actually adults would find, you know, this video meaningful because they don't even know anything about, you know, Kentucky law. So this is an educational piece, right? So we're learning Kentucky law here. Isn't this fun? I'm gonna do an overview of each one of these courts, and then I'm gonna shut it off. Okay, so and then start a new one. So there's a lot of corruption, you know, to kind of. No, I don't have to say all that. There is a lot of corruption, and the more that we actually get educated and the people get educated, the more we can put pressure on the, you know, the publicly elected, the at-large, popularly elected people, because if they don't get elected, they don't have any fucking power. So that's the best way to kick these fucking tyrannical assholes out. Fucking run somebody else in their fucking place, and then they don't fucking win. You got somebody else, and then you got your guy in there, right? If you find somebody that can actually run, that'll stand up for the people, stand up for what's right, truth and justice, you know, the American way. Kentucky Court of Justice, you have the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Circuit Courts, and the District Courts. There's actually really good explanations on the website, Kentucky Court's website, and this is probably where all this information comes from. But we'll just go through this way. Okay, so let's start with the Supreme Court. The Kentucky Supreme Court was created in a 1975 constitutional amendment. It's the state Supreme Court of the United States, the U.S. state of Kentucky. All right, that's poorly worded, so I'm already starting to not question. I'm questioning Wikipedia. Do you know what the hell you're talking about? Prior to that, the Kentucky Court of Appeals was the only appellate court in Kentucky. The Kentucky Court of Appeals is now Kentucky's intermediate appellate court. So, appellate, I don't even know what appellate is, okay? The Supreme Court's the main fucking thing. They're the ones that dictate how Kentucky determines her laws. And if they go, you know, above and beyond and it takes the federal courts, then maybe they might have to fucking do things differently. But in general, this is the people that fucking run, you know, the whole show, the whole shebang. These people will say whether or not the legislators and the executive branch pass a law that's constitutional or not. These are the people that's going to organize all the justices and all the judges throughout the state. They're going to be the ones that determine, you know, some of the high-profile cases. So the KSP and city and county police officers will know what they're doing and be able to effectively work on their, you know, their interpreting the law and, you know, handed down impartial judgments. So the Kentucky Court of Appeals is now Kentucky's intermediate appellate court. Criminal appeals often involving a sentence of death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment of 20 years or more go directly to the Kentucky Supreme Court. So if there's a murder case, just like the one in Boone County, this is where the fucking Boone County case should go to. In fact, I'm going to start, that's how I'm going to open up the next one, is just that case of that woman getting murdered, okay? Because you got a 19-year-old girl, a fucking kid, you know, then a fucking trigger-happy psycho fucking serial killing, you know, trait fucking having piece of shit going around murdering our fucking babies, and that we can't have that. We didn't allow it for Marco Chapman, and just because you have a badge, it doesn't change you. You know, you can't murder people. Sorry, that's fucking wrong. And if we as a society can't agree that murder is wrong, then we can't really agree on much of fucking anything. Okay, you can't agree that murder is wrong. Get the fuck out of my face. So, Kentucky Supreme Court. Okay, it's the main fucking one. Criminal appeals involving a sentence of death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment of 20 years go directly there. So the appeals, so they got to appeal to it, right? You got to, I guess, put out some petition. And that's how everything starts. Some petition, whether it's a cop punching in something in the electronic petition service or whatever, or you actually going to the courthouse and filling it out and handing it to them, or getting some lawyer to do it. So it always starts out, or getting the grand jury. The grand jury can issue indictments too. So when you get an indictment, when you have a warrant out for someone's arrest, which the judges can do, they can do bench warrants, and there could be warrants out. I don't know. You can get arrested by lots of different ways, right? Jailers have the powers to arrest. Constables have the power to arrest. Sheriffs have the power to arrest. And then plus the federal, folks, they have whatever the sheriff says that they have, whatever powers the sheriff says. And then you have, they'll probably say they got something in their own jurisdiction, but that really comes up to the sheriff. So you got the feds, and then you have the state people, right? You got the KSP. So that's how Kentucky works, okay? So Kentucky Supreme Court promulgates the rules of court and rules of evidence through two of its sub-agencies, the Kentucky Office of Bar Admissions and Kentucky Bar Association, the final arbiter for bar admissions and discipline. So that matters if you're going to become a lawyer. You have to go up and through you have to fucking appeal to these people. And the lawyers, it just sucks actually the way this all works, because it seems like the way the system is structured, it kind of forces all the lawyers to be like best buds and friends, and so it's like one big fucking fraternity. Hopefully there's an honest one of the bunch, but if they're all fucking corrupt, then they're all going to be covering each other's asses and not really, passing down impartial judgments. So in the event that two or more justices of the Kentucky Supreme Court recuse themselves from a case, the governor of Kentucky appoints special justices to sit for that particular case. So they can recuse themselves, which is what Linda Bramlage did with my domestic violence order hearing, and the second one at least, or the 2012, the one in fall 2012, not in 2009. She fucked me over in 2009, but 2012 she recused herself. So the court meets in a courtroom located on the second floor of the Kentucky State Capitol in Frankfort. The second floor of the Capitol building is also home to offices for the justices and Supreme Court personnel. So that's where they're situated, at Kentucky State Capitol in Frankfort. Administrative Office of Court. Okay, so currently John D. Minton is the man here. You have 7 of them, and their terms are for 8 years. So you got 7 Supreme Court justices, and their terms are for 8 years apiece. So that's different than America's. America's, once you become a Supreme Court justice, you're justice for life. John D. Minton, we don't have a picture of him. He is born in Florida, so apparently you can, not be born in Kentucky and be Supreme Court Chief Justice. John D. Minton was elected to the Supreme Court on July 24, 2006 to fill a vacancy created by Justice William S. Cooper, who retired on June 30th, 2006. So he was elected to fill the vacancy, they said. So this guy drops out, and then this guy's elected. On the retirement of Chief Justice Joseph E. Lambert, Minton was elected by his fellow justices to replace him. He was sworn in as Chief Justice on June 27th, 2008. So I guess they're saying the people didn't vote for him, but the other justices had voted for him. I guess. I don't know. But let's see. You can read some of that if you want to find out. Let's see. We could maybe personal life. He's the son of Mr. and Mrs. John D. Minton. They moved from Cadiz, Kentucky to Bowling Green. So he's from Cadiz. That's where they said that's where he was born from, in Bowling Green, where he was raised and still resides. So John D. Minton Jr., he's a Mr. Bowling Green guy. And Bowling Green, this is a Rand Paul's people. This is the Confederate capital. This was where the the Confederates went ahead and had a provisional capital once they were pushed out of Frankfort. Then they established themselves at Bowling Green, and there was 2 governments operating in Kentucky during the Civil War for about 2-3 years, and then eventually the Confederate fuckers got kicked out. But then they came back and kept on getting reelected. But anyways, Bowling Green, this is where Mr. John D. Minton Jr. is from. Mr. John D. Minton Jr. is you know, basically raised in Bowling Green is where he lived his life and still lives his life, but he was actually born in Trigg County. So they came from Cadiz, right? So he actually lived in Trigg County, which is a smaller county. So 2,000, Trigg County, you know, Cadiz is a population of 2,000, and then Trigg County, it's a dry county, which is that might say something about John D. Minton. He comes from a dry county, but I'm not sure Bowling Green. I would assume it's moist or full-blown wet. Trigg County is governed by a fiscal court led by a judge executive. They all are. I want to see the population is 14,000, so it's a little bit bigger. Gallatin County was 8,000. Trigg County is 15,000 or so. So right, 14,000. So that here's the judge executive for Meade County. It's a Republican named Jerry Lynn. He's been the judge executive since 2011, so he just got in there, and I'm not for sure. They're all up for re-election, but I don't know if he's running against anybody. But this is my judge executive, so if I have an issue, then I'm going to call this gentleman up, and he's going to solve my issue, right? This is the face of Meade County, so if you're a Meade Countyan, this is your face. This is what you look like to, you know, the rest of the world. So, hey, Meade County, what's up? So let's see. The other courts, the Court of Appeals. This would be the lower of Kentucky's two appellate courts under Kentucky Supreme Court. Prior to a 1975 amendment to the Kentucky Constitution, the Kentucky Court of Appeals was the only appellate court in Kentucky. So that's, who gives a shit? But that's just saying the Court of Appeals was the Supreme Court. So I'm not sure why they call it the Court of Appeals, but it was the, you know, the court that everybody appealed to. So I guess it's the Supreme Court of Appeals, maybe, you know. So anyways, they just divided it. The Court of Appeals has 14 members. So the Supreme Court has 7 members, and then the Court of Appeals has 14. So this judicial system is just fucking huge. It just keeps on getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the fact that Kentucky's got 120 counties, and each one of them has their own separate government, I am totally in favor with, and I love that because it ensures democracy. But these fucking judicial people, they are, you know, it just, they keep taking bigger and bigger spaces, and we're paying all these people, you know, 6 salaried figures. So 14 people are on the Court of Appeals, and they're all making 120 something thousand dollars. So, you know, 114 times 100, I don't know, let's just make it 150, 14, what is that? I mean, that's like a whole fucking shit ton, right? It's about like fucking, it's, you know, millions. We're fucking, you know, shelling out fucking millions for all these judges. And are we getting justice? Are we getting impartial judgments? Are we fucking doing better as a state? Or are we just fucking shoving a bunch of people into our jails and getting them raped, right? Like what happened in Grant County. You know, he was speeding, so I guess that's why, you know, that boy should be raped, you know, get the shit raped out of him. Get fucking raped the shit out of. I don't know how to, but the, he definitely didn't deserve it, but he did deserve the $1.4 million lawsuit that he wound up winning on after that case. So the Kentucky Court of Appeals, it's the lower of the two. So you got the Supreme Court, you got the Court of Appeals. There's 14 members on the Court of Appeals. 2 members are elected from each of the 7 districts, and they serve 8-year terms of office. Okay, so they're also 8-year terms. And they said that there's 2, each of the 7 districts. So there's 2 from each district. So it's kind of like a Senate, right? 2 from each district. So each district has 2 Court of Appeal representatives, and then there's 7 Supreme Court justices. So I guess that's probably an area too, right? That was like the first map that I showed, and that was so there's 7 sections in Kentucky, right? 2 from each district for the Court of Appeals, and then 1 per district for the Supreme Court. So 7 districts, 7 Supreme Court districts that matter for the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. And I guess, no, the districts for the district and circuit courts are different. So you have 2 maps that you're going to need to know about when it comes to Kentucky courts. You're going to need to have the Court of Appeals maps, the Supreme Court map, and then you're going to need the 7 districts, and then you're going to need you know, the 60, 70, 40 something district, like a whole bunch of them, right? 46th district is Boone County, and then 54th district is the 54th district is Meade County. So, and that's the way politicians try to make themselves sound all fancified. Well, I am the circuit court judge from district number 54, from the 54th district. Oh, get the fuck out of here, man. So, 14 judges select one colleague to serve as chief judge for a 4-year term. What? So then you'll have a chief judge of the Court of Appeals. So you have the Supreme Court chief, and then you got a chief judge of the Court of Appeals. The 14 judges select one colleague to serve as chief judge for a 4-year term. The chief judge assigns judges and cases to panels. The current chief judge is Glenn E. Acree. So that's the main guy, right, of the Court of Appeals. Glenn E. Acree. So that could be a question on the test. Glenn E. Acree. So Glenn E. Acree, the Court of Appeals usually sits in 3 judge panels. Membership of the panels rotates so that all judges sit on at least one panel with each of their colleagues in any given year. Usually one judge is chosen to author the majority opinion for each panel in a particular case. So the Court of Appeals usually sits in 3 judge panels. I don't know what any of this means. The Court of Appeals has a headquarters building and courtroom in Frankfort. Again, so this is the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals are situated in Frankfort, but unlike the Kentucky Supreme Court, the 3 judge panels of the Kentucky Court of Appeals frequently hear cases in courthouses all over Kentucky. So the 3 judge panels, they have 3 judge panels that just make road trips, and they drive all over across Kentucky and judge the cases. So you appeal a case, they'll come out to you. So this is wonderful, right? This is justice being delivered to your house. And I think you only got 10 days to appeal a case. So once the verdict comes down, you got 10 days to file the Kentucky Court of Appeals, and then have 3 judges come drive out to you and hear what it is that you're complaining about. The Kentucky Court of Appeals hears hearing appeals from, let's see, I don't know, that was a weird sentence. Kentucky Court of Appeals hears appeals from the Kentucky Circuit Courts, with the exception of criminal cases involving sentences of death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment of 20 years or more, which are taken directly to the Kentucky Supreme Court. In addition, original actions may be filed with the Kentucky Court of Appeals in certain situations. Prior to the 1975 constitutional amendment, the judicial overhaul of Kentucky, the clerk of the Court of Appeals was an elected position. This elected position was abolished by the 1975 constitutional amendment. Former Governor Martha Lane Collins served as clerk of the Court of Appeals before election as lieutenant governor and then governor. Kentucky judges were elected on a partisan ballot until 1976. In 1976, law now mandates non-partisan judicial elections in Kentucky. So no Democrats, no Republicans, and they probably shouldn't take any stances on any issues, right? I bet the fucking judges are scared out of their minds of making any comments about any issues whatsoever. But they should, and they should like say things. I think like the Boone County case, you should mention that I would have convicted him. I would have, or at least I would have filed charges on him, right? There's a dead body. That's plenty of evidence for an indictment from the grand jury. If anybody's paying any fucking attention, but I don't know. They're corrupt as fuck, probably in Burlington, the capital of Boone County. I'm guessing. I don't know, but that's the judicial system. And Kentucky is one of the most corrupt fucking places. So all, fingers, all indications point to yes, they are fucking corrupt. They're very fucking corrupt. You have the district court, even the district court, right? The people that mess with like misdemeanors and shit. So if I had a landlord that wouldn't give me $300 a deposit back, I would file a small claims petition, and then eventually a district judge would take a look at it. And then they would say guilty, not guilty, and then I'd have to try to get my money somehow, right? So it's like a whole fucking long-ass process, and if you don't know any of the process, then you're just going to be totally screwed by ignorance. Okay, so there's, here's all 4. You can also see the sort of branches right here. Supreme Court's the top. They're making $140,000. Court of Appeals making $130,000. Circuit Family making $120,000, and District making $110,000. Roughly speaking, right? I don't know where they come up with these numbers, $133 and $44. Well, are you sure you don't want to do $43? $44, that's pushing it. But 6 fucking figured salary figures for all these fucking judges. Somebody's making more money than what they should be making. We, the people, should be paying attention to this. We need a better citizen populated media. We need a better, just an active citizenry actually paying attention to these judges and looking at the judicial system, because ultimately we're electing them, right? The 25% of us who's even registered to vote. So everybody get registered to vote and then go fucking vote for the good judges. The judges that that you believe will be fair and impartial, or who are unfair in favor of the working man and woman and working families, and not in favor of corporations, not in favor of tyranny. It doesn't matter. We're all people, so it doesn't matter if I have a badge on or not. If a man is dead, that is enough evidence for an indictment from a grand jury. For some people, but other people, they don't like to play, games like that. They like to play different types of games, right? So, Supreme Court Chief Justice, 140,000. Court of Appeals, 130. Circuit Family Court, 120,000. So, Bramlage, Judge Bramlage, she's been in there for since 2009, and she's running again. So what? She's already made $250 fucking $1,000, and now she's trying to make a quarter fucking, another fucking $125,000. So that's already $250,000 we've given her, and now she wants another $125 or $125,000. Are we going to give it to Linda Bramlage? I've heard other people complain about her. I've heard out of Williamstown, the child services out of Williamstown, they were saying that she's a shitty fucking judge. She's not, there's other people that, took to the internet and they voiced their opposition to her. There was Renee Dawson, who had tried to file a restraining order and got shot by her man, and that was Linda Bramlage that was looking over that. So there's cases out there that she's clearly was wrong. And I know with my case, she didn't give a fuck at all about what was the truth and what wasn't the truth. The first time I was there, actually, I just sat there uncomfortably for about fucking 20 minutes before she eventually addressed me and asked me what was up. And, I had a statement that I want to read. I didn't get a chance to because she didn't care. And right before I went up there, she was talking about a bunch of Republican politics. So, oh, man, Obama, he's really fucking the country. Well, yes, he is. Well, Mitt Romney, he's going to save everything. Oh, yes, Mitt Romney, he represents us 47%. So that's some of the court system, right? So we're seeing the payment for district court get less than family court, right? So I don't know which one actually does more of a caseload. These are also the ones that issue a warrant. So these judges can issue a warrant. That's the only way that a police officer can search your premises is when a warrant has been signed. So it probably any of these judges, any one of these judges, the police officer can give them a call and get themselves a warrant issued. If there's enough, if the judge believes that there's enough evidence that warrants a warrant. So finish up for the last. Here's all the judges actually in the Court of Appeals. So this is all 14 of the Court of Appeal justices who they're going to be in there for 8 years, from when they start. And so some of them are coming up, right? 2006 to 2003. They've been there 11 years. So I'm not for sure if people don't run against them, or do we have enough lawyers? It seems like we need lots and lots more lawyers, if we want to replace them, because there's a lot of lawyers, a lot of judges that's already out there, a lot of positions. And they're making bank, right? Fucking 6-figure salaries. My God, they are fucking cleaning house. Jesus Christ, they're making so much fucking money. I hope justice is being implemented by, these assholes. Not you. He's the judge executive. Actually, isn't judicial. He's an executive branch. So he signs the laws and he enforces it, which actually puts him in a weird spot, because if him and the sheriff was to get into a fight, I don't know which one would win. The sheriff has all the power to put their hands on anybody they want to. The sheriff enforces the law. They enforce the Constitution. They enforce it how they see it. Do they enforce the laws that this man passes? Do they listen to him? They do listen to this man because he controls the budget. But they don't necessarily have to listen to him, when he says arrest that man or arrest that man. They don't have to necessarily listen to him when they do that. But I don't know or do they? Because he's the executive. So the executive is the one who signs it and executes the law. So when, let's take Andrew Jackson, for example. He went ahead and did the Trail of Tears. There was Chickasaw in Kentucky, and he said, fuck them Chickasaw. I'm going to fucking run them out the west, right? And he started fucking, Trail of Tears and started sending them out west. Andrew Jackson had the Supreme Court passed a fucking, they said that what he was doing was unconstitutional. He wasn't allowed to do it. And they was like, well, that's fine and dandy. He would just, get the fucking Supreme Court chief to enforce his order. And then he went in and passed the fucking thing. Now I get him to enforce it. So basically daring him. Right? Daring him what to do. So, I want to finish out, I guess, the last court. The last court is the circuit courts. So the Kentucky circuit courts are the state courts of general jurisdiction in the U.S. state of Kentucky. Why is it the U.S. state? The United States state of Kentucky? Get out of here. So, there was a good story. I hope I finished that story up. So, if not, just say, hey, what's the end of that story? The circuit courts are the trial courts with original jurisdiction in cases involving capital offenses, felonies, land disputes, contested probates of wills, civil lawsuits, and disputes with an amount in controversy over $4,000. So again, circuit courts are the big fucking courts, district courts are the little courts, and then you got, the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. So you got the two big head honcho fucking courts, then you got circuit court, which is the big one with the felonies, capital offenses, so big fucking, thieving shit, land disputes, right? Because if you're a felon, you're a shitty person, right? Because a felony is murder, rape. You clearly want to hurt other people if you're a felon. Land disputes, contested probates of wills, and civil lawsuits and disputes with an amount in controversy over $4,000. Circuit courts also have the power to issue injunctions, writs of prohibition, writs of mandamus, and appeals from the decisions of administrative agencies. So, circuit court's got a lot of fucking power, actually, and I probably have to investigate this a little bit, How much power do they have? Issue injunctions, writs of prohibition, what the mandamus. Then there's the family court division of the circuit court's original jurisdiction in cases involving dissolution of marriage, divorce, child custody, visitation, maintenance and support, alimony and child support, equitable distribution of family and dissolution cases, adoption and termination of parental rights. Linda Bramlage and Michael Collins, I think it was a family court thing. I think that's what they put it underneath of. For both, I had criminal, I had harassment communications, and then I had assault charge and some other things, but they knocked all the criminal things down to where I just got harassment communications, which is, misdemeanor, and then the DVO, they went ahead and issued the DVO on me. So they went ahead and basically put every fucking thing that they could file on me, criminal matters, fucking family court, this court, that court, everybody fucking, let's try to get a fucking piece of my ass. And they did. They wound up getting, fined me like $450 fucking dollars, and I should have fought it because I know I was fucking innocent, but really I looked at my chances. And I didn't know a lot of folks. There was a jury waiting in the other room, and they offered harassment communications, and that's like really tiny. So I could have aired out all the grievances to everybody, but I didn't have confidence in the people of Gallatin County that they would actually look at the case and determine for themselves what was right and what was wrong. I think they would have made a political move and decided the people. And I hadn't been in Gallatin County for 10-something years, so people didn't really know me. Some of them did, but that might have been, a reason to kick them off the jury pool anyways. So that's the family court, right? I had to go through the family court. And again, I think it's really good because in the family court, since there's minors, right? My younger brother are minors. They are sort of protected from the public, so that their names aren't being brought up in the paper. People aren't asking questions. It's not out in public when they're being asked any questions. They're in a comfortable environment. So I think it's good for that, but again, the kids had nothing to do with the whole thing. Neither one of them saw it. They was in different parts of the house, and he tried to murder me. So I don't motherfucker attacks me 5,000 times in my life, tries to fucking murder me. I have a right to never see that piece of shit ever again. Okay, I don't give a fuck if you all think that you know what the fuck you're talking about or don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That was a rite of passage for me, and that's something that every man should actually go through. And a true man would just, brush themselves off and say, I have been an asshole to you. I'm sorry. Shake the hand. Fucking go on. Let's have a beer. Not my old man. He was a little bitch, and he was fucking humiliated. And that's the reason Marvin Gaye Sr. murdered Marvin Gaye Jr. He fell down, was humiliated that he got pushed over by this, this kid that he'd been beating up his whole fucking life. And it was a humiliation that pushed him to be a fucking psycho. So I don't know. I'm you know, I don't like the reputation carrying on the thing. I don't give a shit about him. You know, I don't hate him. I don't fuck it. And you know, if he does a good life, he doesn't have a good life. Fuck, it doesn't matter. It's contempt at this point. I don't care. And so you know, he wants to put restraining order on me. They had agreed that there wasn't one. In a way, he's restraining himself away from me too. So even though, you know, they said that I can't be around him, if he's around me, he is violating his own restraining order. So if he's so fucking terrified of me, why is he, you know, terrorizing me? Let's see. Circuit judges serve in 8-year terms. Wow, 8 fucking years. So Linda Bramlage is going to get $125,000 times 8. She's going to get, that's a fucking $1 million position. $1 million fucking dollar position. Circuit judges. Circuit judges. Okay, I don't know. Family judges, are they fucking 8 years? 8 years? Circuit judges are 8 years. Damn. So if you become a circuit court judge, you are going to make 8 times $125,000. That's $1 million, right? You add it up. So you become a fucking millionaire in 10 fucking years. Holy shit. No wonder our schools don't have any fucking money. Let's go into the judges. $1 million for the circuit judge. And they're not even any fucking good. The circuit judges aren't. So that's amazing. 8 years for the circuit judge. 8-year term. They're all 8-year terms so far. The Court of Appeals was 8 years. The Supreme Court was 8 years. The Family Court Division of Circuit Court also has concurrent jurisdiction with the district court over proceedings involving domestic violence and abuse. The Uniform Act on Paternity and the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act, dependency, child abuse, and neglect, and juvenile status offenses. So the family court and district court have concurrent powers. Either one of those courts can take up the case. So either the family or the district court can take it. It depends on, you know, if you know the district court judge or the family court judge. I've heard about judges in Kentucky, you know, just going around back. You slip them a couple $100. Thing's good. Got the fucking conviction. That's how shit works around here, right? Bunch of corrupt fucking bastards. Appeals from decisions of the circuit courts are made to the Kentucky Court of Appeals, the state intermediate appellate court, which may be further appealed to the Kentucky Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court. Criminal cases in which a defendant has been sentenced to death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment of 20 years or more are taken directly to the Kentucky Supreme Court.